All right. Welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Audie, and once again, I am your host, Audie. So continuing on from what happened on Tuesday from the firing and having to leave the premises of my employer. In the Bahamas, we usually would have this saying that we tell people when we tell them to leave, we tell them to kick rocks, just to tell them, go away. And another thing is that we would usually tell people, say when someone loses something or pretty much lose a lot, you would find them losing their mind pretty much counting lampposts around town. But here in the US, we barely have any lampposts to count, and I couldn't find the rocks. So I found the next best thing. I found me a piece of twig on the ground. I decided to kick it as I was in deep in thought, trying to determine or make sense out of what transpired from that moment I stepped in to negotiate the contract until me being actually fired. So I was talking to one of my friends, and they kind of let me know. I told them that I was fired, and they was more willing to kind of listen and kind of give me a silver lining in regards to what transpired. It told me, well, at the end of the day, it was that they were getting you at it wasn't getting you at a rate that you wanted. In addition to it, you pretty much were selling yourself short anyway by just looking at that particular endeavor. And so I listened to what they had to say. They said, you should be more open to, looking at different places outside of education and also looking at the places outside of Florida. But, in terms of me being stubborn in my ways, I wanted to stay in Florida because I have my reasons for doing so. But and I spoke to another friend. I was telling him at the end of it, it's like maybe it's just a blessing in disguise in terms of them firing me, because it's been such a long time since I hardly ever had any time for me to actually just be with myself in terms of trying to determine what it is I'm really good at. Is that I've always been protected by some form of institution that always protected me in this safe space, in this safe bubble, to keep me protected from myself pretty much. I was thinking of playing along with that idea and saying, okay, well, maybe I should consider just taking this time off and taking this as a blessing for me to just explore different options that I've been thinking about. But the one thing that they did say when I said that, it's like, because they kind of know in terms of my background coming from not having much. The one thing they asked me was that, remember that time I told them a story about one time I remember, not having any money for me to buy any food, and the disheartening aspect of just me and some of my boys just sitting down and trying to determine how it is we're going to split a meal between the three of us, so that we can actually get a belly full. But then they mentioned that yes, think about that moment where you had that experience. Now that you are in this current position, what would your current self right now tell what would your current self tell your past self if your past self was in this current moment? And I was like, I don't know. They would tell me just take the job and just suck it up. And in that moment, I realized that maybe it is fundamentally incorrect for me to be thinking in terms of just accepting that I was fired and not necessarily moving on, and then just going on a limb and just doing something that I'm not comfortable doing in terms of just being outside of an institution. But after those conversations, I still was fired. So it was barely that they just was telling me look for something else and try to determine what your next step is going to be. So then later after having these conversations, I got a text from the school and they asked me to bring in the goodie bag that they gave us at the beginning of the year. After I saw that text message, I was like, what the hell? They really texted me to bring this goodie bag? But at the end of the day, I was thinking when I saw the text message, still in anger. I looked at the stuff inside of it. I said, you know what? I should just break all of these things and just for what they did. But then, in the midst of me saying that, I was like, you know what? If I break these things, they're gonna talk crap about you. So breaking these things is just gonna give them more reason to talk crap about you. So why would you give them more reason for them to talk crap about you? And so I decided, instead of breaking their stuff, then I would rather fill up my hand sanitizer bottle that I had that was needed to be filling. Also that I needed some face masks, and they had some face masks in the goodie bag. I decided to take a prime number from the box and leave them with a prime number. So it was 50 face masks in the box. I took 13 and I left 37 because it's perfectly prime, and prime are my favorite numbers. So I just wanted to kind of leave it with a perfect balance in my head. Then after I realized the message, and I realized that, oh snap, I left my phone charger in the classroom. So now it's like it's like that aspect of you left your ex, but then you realize that there is a significant item that you left with your ex. So now you have to go back to see them in order for you to retrieve this item. So that was the current predicament that I found myself. They needed that goodie bag. I needed my charger, so we needed to make a transaction. So I needed to see them again after they fired me. So, thinking about it, I said, okay, well, I'll be there by, 4 o'clock or so, because I had an errand to run to go pick up my passport in downtown Miami. So I decided to go ahead and drive to the Bahamian embassy in downtown Miami to get my passport. Driving and going, I got a text message from one of my coworkers there asking me where I was. And I look at the text message, it's like, they gotta be playing. It's like, there's no way they don't know what happened. So why are they texting me and asking me where I am? So I decided to reply to the message. I said, you don't know yet? And they're like, no, what? And I was like, oh, you'll find out soon enough. I tend to speak in codes and not necessarily reveal what I need to reveal in time frame, because it's always that it's something more to whatever I think it is. So I told them, you'll find out soon enough. They're like, find out what? So then they called me, and then we had a conversation on the phone. I know within the conversation, I said, okay, well, I have to come back to the school to drop off this thing, so we'll have that conversation when I get there. So I got down to downtown Miami, finally looking for a parking spot. I couldn't find one because why? The freaking pay by phone app wasn't working for me to actually pay for my parking spot. So now I had to and then once I actually found a place where it was accepting cash or a card, then I parked my car and I had to go into the Bahamian embassy. Getting there, they tell me that it was a Tuesday, but they ain't open on Tuesdays, they only open on Mondays and Wednesdays. I was like, God damn, everything that could possibly go wrong today is the same as though it just wants to go wrong. And then, my car was parked between the hotel in downtown Miami and Bayside Marina, I think is what the place is called. And there's this little park right closer to the hotel between that walkway near the shore or the dock, I don't know what they call it, where they tend to have those boat crews. And I just kind of sat there, and I sat there for a bit, just staring out to the water. And I think before I even left that day to actually go to the Bahamian embassy, I had this idea. It's like, it's like all my life I had so many losses, but I never actually grieved them consciously. I said, what would happen if I actually grieved this particular process consciously and try to get through the 5 stages of grief as fast as I could? So it's like, okay, well, denial, you already went through that. Bam, check off the mark. Anger, you did that. How did you deal with it? You dealt with it. Check off the mark. What's the next stage? Bargain? I was like, frick that. I'm not gonna bargain with these people to go back to them. No, we skipping that one. Depression. I was like, oh snap, it's a depression state. So in terms of me just sitting there and just looking out to the abyss, I just kind of laid back on the concrete and just stared into the sky, because I was sitting on the tree and just looking through the branches of the tree. And for that moment there, I just kind of said, okay, but Audie, it's okay. You lost something. It's okay for you to feel this anger. It's okay for you to be in denial, and it's okay for you to feel sad about it as well. And I just sat there. I just let myself experience the form of depression. A little tear drop from my eye and what's not. But your boy didn't just ball out in public and let people know that he was going through some BS. But it was that point in time that I realized that, okay, well, it's okay for you to be okay with these feelings. So just accept them and kind of acknowledge them, because at the end of the day, if you don't necessarily acknowledge these feelings, you are only going to be forced to make a decision that's going to be detrimental to you at the end of the day. And so once I did that, then I went around and walked around the Bayside, I can't remember the proper name, and I went to the restaurant, I got something to eat, sat down, had a conversation with one of the waiters, because he's pretty well known in terms of the Miami area, and we shared a back and forth. So after that, time for me to accept it. Okay, I'm fired, boom, gone. So then I went back to school to go drop off their stuff. Going to the school to drop off the thing, I wasn't let in per se, but one of the employees let me in and on the campus. And once I actually returned the bag, I text the person, tell them I was here, and they sent someone to get the bag from me. And then I met with my coworker to kind of discuss with them what I told them I would tell them earlier. I went to their classroom and I just sat there, and they asked me what happened. I told them the story of what happened that morning. And then eventually they said, okay, well, and I told them about the story about me getting another offer, because before I even went into the class, before I went on school, I got a call from the people that I interviewed with on that Friday, which offered me to make the offer with me on Monday. They wanted to know what my decision was going to be on Tuesday, which is that day. So when they called me, I told them, well, if it wouldn't be too much to ask, can I answer you guys at 6 o'clock this evening? So they said, okay, well, it would be okay if you answer us between 6 and 7 o'clock. I said, bet, good. So then I was telling them about this entire aspect, telling my coworker about this offer that I'm getting, and also that it was better than the one that I'm currently being offered at that school. And then they asked me questions like, okay, well, tell me something. Would it be okay if you tell me how much they offered you? And I look at her and it's like, okay, well, I know you're not going to tell me, but is it more than X? I look at her and I was like, no, it's totally less than X. And then she's like, oh. And they was like, oh, I can understand why it is that you wouldn't accept it. And I was like, oh, so you understand? And they was like, yeah, I can understand. It's like, especially when you're in the position that you are in, then if it's less than X, then I would feel the same way as well. And then so I was like, okay. Seeing that she understood. And then this was the one person that was more concerned about anything happening at the end of the day in regards to the offer, because if they did fire me, or if I did not get the offer, I decided to leave, this was going to be the person that was going to be most likely to be impacted greatly by the decision in terms of me leaving or them firing me. And this is the person I had a conversation with, and they told me that they could understand. And I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't such a bad idea that they decided to let me go. And maybe if I do accept this offer, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing. But the one thing that they did say is that, don't rush into this right now, because it's likely that they're going to come in and ask you a question and find out if you were willing to come and make you another offer. And I was like, well, I have to make a decision based on this thing tonight. So I don't know if they wait, if they don't tell me, if they don't call me back today and make me another offer, I don't know what's going to happen when I have to call back these people again tonight to tell them what my decision is going to be based on the current offer that they gave me. And so, I left. And then, I called one of the previous co-workers that recently left on her own accord and tell her about the experience I just had with the school. And she's like, oh, I expected that. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, when I actually told them I resigned, I sent a nice letter to everybody about, all the things that the school meant to me. But it's like, after I sent a letter to all of them, but none of them even actually sent me a message that say thank you, they received it, or even noted that they actually received the email that she sent. But she said the only person that did, there was one person that did respond to her. And when she told me that, I decided to text that person and let them know what my decision was going to be based on how things transpired for that day. Because at the end of the day, it's like, because she actually was concerned about me throughout the entire first year, then it was justified that I maybe, kind of reach out to her and let her know what happened. But, it's like I sat with it, and then it was finally time for me to make the call to let the people know what my decision was going to be. I picked up the phone, and I didn't even want to call, because it's like I was stuck between, should I call these people and tell them what really happened today, or should I just avoid making this decision and let them pretty much just go and look for someone else instead of me having to make that decision. So it's like, if you ever been in any relationship, it's like you just came out of a breakup with your boyfriend, I don't know what it is, that you've been together with for a year plus. But then now it's like this, hot chump who have so much more on the table, is offering so much. But then it's like they just came to you right after the breakup. Now, what do? Do you stay in this transitionary period of just dealing with and acknowledging these emotions that you are feeling? Or do you go back to your ex because, they still have that door open for you? Or do you proceed with this new hot thing that is there, that you can say, okay, well, they have all these characteristics, most of the characteristics I'm looking for, so I just want to go ahead and just go with them. So yes, that was the current position I was in. I've never been in a position in any of my relationships, but it's like, this was something different. It's like, I've heard stories about people, having to deal with that, but it's like, I've never been in that situation. So that was the kind of predicament that I was currently in. And so I picked up the phone, took a deep breath, dialed the number, and I pressed call. And I call the people, and they pick up the phone. It's like, oh, it's good to hear from you. We couldn't wait to hear what your decision is going to be. When I asked them one question, I was like, can you please tell me again what the offer is going to be? And they told me it. And it's like this adrenaline rush just came in me. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm about to get more than I was making. And this was a lot of money. This is more money than I've ever seen in my entire life. But then I asked them another question. I was like, okay, well, is it required that I come in to teach even though the students won't be there? And it's like, yes, everybody's required to come in. And then I paused for a moment, and then the lady on the other line, she was like, why is it that I have a feeling that you don't want to accept this offer? And then she asked me that question. I was like, it's not that I don't want to take this offer, it's that I'm in this current position where I don't know what to do right now. It's not that I'm saying no to you guys, because I would like to take the offer, but currently at the position that I'm in, I wouldn't like to take the offer. But it's not that I'm saying no to you all, it's just that I am just not in the mental state for me to make a decision coming from what I just experienced today, for me to go ahead and jump into a decision without necessarily processing what just happened. And it was hard, it was kind of a lot for me to take in and a lot for me to say. And I'm pretty sure on the other side, it was a lot for her to hear in regards to the investment that they made in terms of, interviewing me, looking at different candidates and kind of, eliminating candidates and thinking about who it is that they can apply, they can actually give an offer to, and for me to actually say no. But after, I said what I had to say, the lady on the other end was like, you know what, Dr. B, I'm going to pray for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, please pray for me. Because I think any kind of prayers that I can get right now would be very beneficial, not to me for what is about to transpire, because I don't know what's going to happen, because I'm in a transitionary period, and I think anything in any form of prayer would be very, very appreciated. And then, and then she said, okay, well, I will pray for you. And she said goodbye and wish you all the best. And then she hung up the phone, and I hung up the phone, and now I was stuck. Nothing on the table. And that brings us to another end of another episode of Tuesday with Audie. That was Tuesday. And yes, this is pretty much like any transitionary period that all of us go through in our lives, when we are stuck within a moment of deciding, should I go back or should I move forward into this unknown? Or should I just remain in this current position that I'm in and just suck it up? And in that moment, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I did it. But I knew that jumping from one problem to the next wasn't necessarily going to solve the issue that I had. And the issue on the line was still that I didn't want to expose myself to the virus. And this school, even though they was offering more money, it was still that I was still had to catch an Uber and still expose myself and having to go back home and still risking exposing my mom and my siblings to a virus if I did catch it. So it wasn't that the money was enticing, yes it was, but at the end of the day, family cannot be replaced. And I realized that in that moment, that no matter what amount of money, it wasn't about the money. It was just about the safety of myself and my family. Because no amount of money that was offered in terms of me still having to put myself at risk would have changed my decision in terms of me accepting an offer. And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out. Even though I don't know what's going to happen. But one thing I do know is that once I'm healthy, then it's likely that I can figure it out. And so I decided to not accept the offer. I just decided to deal with the consequences later on. And so that's the end of today's episode. There's more to come on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. But Tuesday I tried my best to give it its justice, even though it wasn't justice served. But that would happen on Tuesday. We are way over time. Time for me to get off the screen. It's been great. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for commenting and sharing and liking the last post. IGTV has been a good thing for me to try, but nonetheless, it's all about keeping the content and keeping everybody honest and enjoying what it is that I have to share. So with that said, thank you all. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I think that's what they say. Until the next episode, peace, love, and enjoyment. Deuces. I am Audi. Bless.